All right. Okay. So, just for anybody who might be just tuning in, I am Risa Hoag, and my company is GMG Public Relations, and Insight Network is just something I started during this whole quarantine time to bring expertise and insight into dealing with everything that we're all dealing with together to people through interviewing some colleagues and some friends and talking about different things that we're all dealing with. And we've done How to Look Good on Camera, and I did one with Patricia Stark, who is works with people to help them look their best on camera. And I feel like Patricia would be proud today. So we've got those of you who are tuning in, you can see I've got my virtual office here, which I'm very, very proud of. And I'll share my tips at the end for how to create a beautiful virtual office. But I'm happy today to have Christine Piscani of Ella Design Group. And Christine is a real designer who does design work both for people in their homes and also for office space. And Christine and I had an opportunity to work together when I was searching for office space, which now looking back, it didn't work out, and now I'm kind of glad that it did work out. So I get to be in my home office and be comfortable there. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So Christine, before we kind of get into the meat of everything, so tell everybody about a little bit about your company.
So we're a full service interior design company. We're located in New City and Tucson, Arizona, and we work on projects throughout the East Coast and Arizona. We work on residential projects, from an interior design consultation through a full service turnkey project. We can do renovations, remodels. We collaborate with architects and contractors and other artisans to bring your dreams to life. So we've
awesome. And you are a little low. So
okay.
just a little bit louder. Technology always at issue. When we all got basically sent home for this quarantine.
Yeah.
Some of us were used to being at home and used to being, have an office set up. I was lucky that when we did a home renovation, I've always had my office in the home. I've had my company for 29 years, and I've always had my office in my home, but it was in a different area. And then when we did a renovation about 15 years ago, I was able to use the office that I have now, which I've been very used to it, very accustomed to it, and I really enjoy my home office. And it is separate, and I do have a nice big window in front of me, which is wonderful and helpful. But a lot of people have been thrust into this without having a plan, without having any sort of real notice that this was going to happen, and are now dealing maybe with more than one person, even being at home, and may also be dealing with kids, and how do you manage all of that and still be productive? And for some people it comes more naturally than others, and for some it's tough. This is a tough time to work with figuring all of this out at once, basically. People are homeschooling, they're working from home, they've got schedules, they've got, when am I putting on my mask to go shopping? There's just so many things here at play. So I thought it would be great to speak with you, because I do think that, and maybe you can weigh in on this too, as far as what you've heard, but I do think that a lot of people will continue to work from home, or will maybe split that time going forward after this is quote unquote over, because they might find that they're actually more productive at home, or that having 2 days at home might be a good thing. So, I mean, are you hearing that from people?
Yes, there's been a lot of talk. I've spoken to in the last few weeks some realtors, and they're actually getting calls from people living in the city or in Brooklyn or Queens looking to move to Westchester or Rockland, because they're being told they're going to be working from home more often than not. Companies are looking, they can't have as much density in the offices now, so they're going to be staggering work days. That's a lot of what I'm hearing. And a lot of people are looking for homes with the number of bedrooms they need, plus space for 1 or 2 offices, depending on if both people are working from home or just one person is. And then, there's also the kids with the virtual schooling. We don't know where that's going to go. So are the kids going to be back in school in September? Those are all things to consider. So things are definitely changing. Some companies found that people being home, they're more productive, I guess, because there's a lot less socialization going on, which is good and bad. Working from home can be very isolating, so that's something else to consider. But some businesses I've heard are looking to negotiate less office space and instead have people work remotely 2 days a week versus being in the office, and being in the office 3 days a week versus being in the office 5 days a week. So I think there are going to be changes along the way, and I think it's going to be a evolving situation. I mean, even in the office space now, all the companies are looking at how they're going to create this social distancing. So a lot of companies are looking to put up partitions between the desks. Some companies, in the design industry, we're talking about using flooring, different types of flooring, to build out 6 feet spaces. So when you're encroaching, getting a little too close to people, because we need to keep that social distancing going. We don't know how long this is going to go on. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And also how to help people work from home and manage being productive, staying healthy. Because when you're working from home, you work from home, I work from home, we had a studio. You can go down the rabbit hole when you're working from home and work hours on end. And before you know it, you've been sitting for 4 hours. And that's really bad for you. So we're trying to figure out ways to be productive and still be healthy and take a break and not just become workaholics and manage the stress of working from home and the uncertainty in the situation. And then when you have your children at home, homeschooling, that's a whole nother issue that I'm thankful I'm not involved in with my kids.
I know. I am grateful for that as well. And we do tend to, I think when you work from home, you do tend to sort of, I know I do, that you get sort of sucked into the office where you just can keep working constantly. And that's not necessarily a good thing.
No.
And I've had several people ask me, aren't you tempted to do the laundry? And I say, yeah. And I get up and I do the laundry. Like, I'm okay with that. For me, it's almost a little break to get up and do that and sort of stretch and all that kind of thing. Yeah. I did, we didn't have this necessarily to talk to, but, or talk about, but I bought I have a wonderful desk setup that I just love. It's a big corner, takes up a whole swath of my office. But I also bought a standing desk that I put on top of my desk. So it raises it up a little bit, but I'm able to then pull it all the way up and stand up for a period of time during the day, which I never thought I would like. And now I actually love it. So that I thought was so interesting, because I thought, well, why am I wanting to stand up and do my work? But actually, I really have enjoyed being able to have that opportunity. So, but tell me, so you've obviously planned home offices with people and figuring out, whether they have a separate place or they need a nook and cranny or whatever. So how does one start to think about, planning for a home office?
So when you're planning for a home office, the first thing, we always say is, how much are you willing to invest in this project? Like, what is your dream office like? What is your budget? Maybe you don't have the budget to do your whole office the way you'd like it to be at one point, but we always recommend, whether you're working with us or on your own, have a full plan. Like, have your vision for your office, or we can help you create it. But have your ideas, know what your technology needs are, because the form, which is the desk and the chair and the storage and all that, is going to follow your function. So what are your functions? Are you left-handed or right-handed? Do you need a desktop and a laptop and an iPad? So then you need more space, because I actually sometimes are working on all 3 at one time. Do you need paper? Do you need your notepad and pen? Do you need an adding machine? Do you need to have pens? Do you need to have space for the kids to have their scissors and glue and everything? So you want to think about all these different things when you're planning your office. And then also, what inspires you? Because if you're going to go invest this money, you want to create a space that is going to function for you, but it's also going to be aesthetically pleasing and inspire you, especially on gloomy, rainy, snowy days when we're stuck in the office and we can't get out and there's no sunshine. You want to be able to look at pictures, you know, of your trips abroad, whatever inspires you, makes you happy, your kids' artwork. All those personal things are what make your home office more enjoyable to be in, especially when it's for days on it, you know, long term. As far as your desks and stuff, what I recommend is, at least if you have the space, a 5-foot wide desk, so you have room for all the different pieces. Figure out your filing needs. Do you just need like one little file cabinet, or do you need like 3 lateral file cabinets? So figure out what your filing needs are. And then also what's going to be on your flooring. Because if you're getting, if you have wood floors, you need a desk chair that has the soft roll casters, versus if you have carpet, you can go with the harder casters, but that also can ruin your carpet. So then you might want to get a carpet mat. And I highly recommend a desk, either putting the attachment on it, like what you have, Risa, where you can add it onto your desk, or I have a full desk that I have it's programmed. I just press the buttons and it raises and lowers electrically. And I also didn't think I'd like it, and I did love it. The only thing I did, because I have wood floors, is I did buy a standing mat for my office.
Oh, okay.
That's making a big difference. But the other thing that I always recommend too, when you're planning your office, because, you know, it's very easy to end up sitting all day, is either, you know, if you wear a Fitbit, or set an alarm for once every hour, get up and walk around, get your 250 steps in, go change that laundry, because that will get you upstairs, or, you know, get you out of your desk for a little bit. And it's good mentally to take that break when you're working from home. When you're at work, somebody comes in your office, there's a distraction or something. So you're not working hours on end, usually, like you are when you work from home, and there are no interruptions, especially if the kids do go back to school and there aren't, you know, you're home working alone. So yeah, let's take those breaks.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about, you know, what inspires you. And I love that, because I think a lot of people might tend to think more about sort of practicality. Right. So I need a 6-foot wide desk. Like you said, you know, you do need certain things that are practical to what you're doing, but also what's going to inspire you, because if you're going to spend a lot of time in there, you know, what's going to make you feel good about being in that environment. And I think back to when we were meeting originally, and I said that I didn't like yellow, and the building we were looking at was yellow. And then I showed you my office, which is all yellow, which this is not my actual office, for anybody who's questioning. I love this setting, which is color. You can see, that's how you know. But I love this setting. I really do, Christine. So when we do look for my office,
okay,
big loft. Yeah. But my office walls are all bright yellow, which is so funny, because I told Christine I don't like yellow. And then it turns out that my office is yellow. And I thought back to that. And it was because I wanted to feel inspired. I wanted to feel like my office was a bright and cheery and sunny place. So I painted it yellow. Why I then voiced that I don't like yellow, I don't know. But anyway, and then I have things around my office that do inspire me. I have like sunflowers that, again, yellow, but I have sunflowers in my office. They're not real, but they're sunflowers. And then I have
you have your awards from horseback riding.
My awards in here, and my pictures of horses, and I have actually some of the artwork that I've produced over the years for clients, I actually have on my wall as well. And so, and actually one of them is a big framed piece that one of my graphic artists put together for me.
That's nice.
So it's, yeah, so I think that's an important piece of this. And again, not everybody has the ability, you know, my office is, I forget, it's about 13 by 13. Not everybody has that kind of a space to use. They may just have a corner nook or whatever. But I think that's so important, especially now, to have, you know, things that are going to kind of keep us going, things that you can look at and maybe smile on your desk. I've got some little Nickelodeon things, and I've got little SpongeBob around and stuff like that, just so that I'm kind of smiling, you know, during the day.
Especially because like when you say SpongeBob, you know, my younger son loved SpongeBob, and he used to be able to sing all the songs. So like when you look at something like that, it brings back a cheerful memory and it makes you smile. And that's important, just to, you know, get a break from the computer screen and everything going on with work and the stress of that. And, you know, you mentioned having a dedicated area. Not everybody has the ability to have a dedicated room or space for an office. So people are working from their kitchens now, on the kitchen table and the dining room table, on the living room, in the living room. So for those people, if you can't have a dedicated space, there are a few options you can do for minimal investment. If you don't have a dining room where you can work, you could get a cocktail table that has a lifting top that comes, it's on a hinge, that it comes forward so you can pull it, pick it up and pull it over towards you, and it becomes a desk.
Mm.
The beauty of that is the bottom underneath, there's some storage in there. So at the end of the day, just like when you're at your office, you shut down your computer, you organize your papers, write your notes for the next day, and you leave. When you work from home and you don't have the dedicated office, you can't leave. So you can pack everything up and put it away so that it's out of sight, because you mentally need to leave work. You know, and shutting your computer down and having it on your dining room table and then passing through the dining room to get water later in the day, in the evening, you're going to see it and you're going to start working. I mean, we've all done it. You turn on the computer at 10 o'clock and next thing you know, you're working till 3 in the morning, and then you have the Zoom meeting at 10 o'clock. So you really need to physically, mentally step away. So having this cocktail table can really work. And they come in different shapes and sizes and styles and many different price points. You can definitely research that on the internet. Another option is if you have a corner in your living room or dining room or wherever that, you know, you really don't use, you have the space, they make small little L-shaped desks where they have a shelf on the bottom, and I've seen some in pretty colors like red or yellow, so you can have a little fun with that. Again, at the end of the day, you can put your computer away on the shelf, and it just gives you that mental separation. And then the last thing you can do is they have wall-mounted desks, they're not that big.
Those, yeah. But it's interesting, yeah.
So you could fold it down. Some of them are on a hinge where you could just fold it down so it can kind of go away.
Right.
Others are just an L shape that sits on the wall. I don't think those are the best option. But the downside of those are they're small. So if you work with a laptop and you're totally paperless, it'll work for you. If you need to have room, that's going to be a little tougher.
I think one of the mistakes people might make is to just sort of take over your dining room table, although that may be your only space. But I think, to your point about, you need to sort of close it down at a certain time. If you do have to take over the dining room table, for example, if that really is the only spot that you've got, or your kitchen table even, there's so many options now in terms of storage, and maybe having, I even have even though I have filing cabinets, physical big filing cabinets, I have like a little rolling file that's like my hot files, the stuff that I'm working on right now for clients. And so I have that, and I keep that I pull it out, even though I have a separate office, I pull it out. So I have very easy access to it, right, during my day. And then when I'm done at the end of the day, I push that under my under my desk, and I clean off the rest of my desk. And so I've really made like, okay, I ended my day, I did all my work, and I've cleaned it up. And I think, that to me has been a strategy to sort of help feel as though I accomplished things, and now I've cleaned it up. And now when I come back, and that's one of those productivity tips, right? So at the end of your day, write what you need for tomorrow. So when you come in, you're all ready, right? You're not all of a sudden going, oh my God, I left all this a mess from the night before. And I think that's probably one of those tips. I mean, do you have other things if someone has to use a dining room or a kitchen table? Or
again, if you have to use a dining room table, you can store stuff in a basket. Just
right.
The thing is, you want to clear it, organize it. Like at the end of the day, write your task list for the next day, things that are on your mind, so that you clear your head, and this way you're not waking up in the middle of the night thinking about all these things. But it's really important to write down what you need to do the next day, because many times it'll just be weighing on your mind. I should have done that, or it comes to you later. Just write it down and get it out of the way. As far as your work surface and everything, put it away. Put it in a basket, clear a shelf in the closet. They make storage cubes with the tops that are really cute. They make little ottomans that you can pick up the top. The key is try to get the work stuff out of sight, especially on Friday night, so that you can have the weekend if you're not working on the weekend.
Tonight's Friday night. Looking forward to virtual cocktail hour later. One of the other things I've seen, which just occurred to me when you were talking about that, is I've actually seen where people have taken closets.
Yes.
And taken like the doors off, although you could leave them on as well, and made that into like a little office nook almost. Yeah,
you could do you take advantage of the vertical space, and you can put shelving, hang shelves, get one shelf for your desk. The thing with that is you're losing a whole closet because
Right. Which most people don't want to give up.
exactly, if you have a small space, you usually don't have a closet to give up. The other thing is you have to figure out where you're going to put your desk chair, because you don't want to sit on a stool that slides underneath, because that's not good for your posture when you're working. You
Right.
have the right type of chair. So it's
So
an option. I think if you're working every day, working in a closet's a little tough.
it looks good when you look at the, Real Simple
Yeah, if
magazine.
you look at Pinterest and stuff, it's
Like,
really, but
right, you've got your Pinterest board and it's a lot, it's a
yeah,
cute, but if you've got to sit there for 10 hours at a time, it may not be so cute.
stays on end,
Um,
right?
yeah. Before I wanted to talk about lighting a little bit, but before we talk about that, I just want to go back for a second. So now I've been, you know, I'm in quarantine, been sent home, and I'm facing the prospect of, I don't know how long this is going to last, and I may have to have a permanent home office, right? And let's say I do have a spare bedroom that I can now turn into an office.
Right.
Where do I start? Like, what's the first step? I know you said, you want to have things that inspire you, whatever, but do I start first with, is this the right flooring? Or do I start with wall color? Or do I start with light? Like, where do I start to plan how I'm going to transform
Right.
that room from bedroom to office?
So the first thing you need to plan is your function. What are the pieces you need? How many people are going to be using the room? Again, how much storage do you need? And then the next is, do I have the room? How do I want it to use the room? Do I want my desk to float in the room and face the door? Do I want to put it against the wall so I can have a hutch on top? Many people don't like to face the wall. Other people, they say that your desk slightly angled towards the door puts you in a position of power. That's the power place you want to be. Not everybody has that room. If you have the room for that, your desk is the first piece you want to choose. And then secondly is your chair. And then from there, you decide if you have wood floors, that's great. You could put an area rug. If you don't have wood floors, you have wall-to-wall carpeting. There are things to consider with that, with the casters for your chair. You might want to consider a chair mat so your rug doesn't get ruined.
I have one of those, yeah.
Because that can happen really
Do
easily.
you recommend the glass ones, by the way? Because I've had a few of the plastic ones, and they do end up getting the indentation, eventually cracking.
Yeah, marking up your carpet with all the little
yeah,
points.
the little, like,
The glass ones really work well. They're a little bit of a learning curve pushing back on it, especially if you don't have a lot of space behind you. So you do have to be
fly
careful.
back, you mean? Or
Yeah.
it's like ice skating.
Yeah. And it also, again, that depends on the casters on your chair and stuff too. But I think those are the best. If you have the option to invest in that, I think that's your best option. It's going to be the most long-term, not dealing with plastic, which, we try not to deal with plastic as much as we can.
Good point.
It's not really going to ruin your floor or your carpet. So I would definitely recommend that. And then the next steps after that are, before you decide on your desk and your chair, but before you pick them out, you want to decide what your color scheme is. What inspires you, what makes you feel good. Do you want, like, we did a home office for a woman, she loved the color orange. We did her whole office in orange, and she had this wild, vibrant artwork from all over the world. So we did a whole gallery wall. She loved it. For her, it was inspiring. It was beautiful. It was her happy place. Her husband, not so much. So he had his own man cave, so we made him his own little office, and he had soothing blues and very peaceful and calm, and not like her office was. So you have to just choose a color that's going to make you happy. And if you're working with a husband and wife who are going to be sharing an office, and one wants the vibrant and the other one doesn't, do an accent wall.
Right.
And then bring in the vibrant color in accessories like file cabinets, file boxes, and things like that. So you have to appeal to all people in the project.
Yeah, and I think color is such an important thing too, because it really does affect, everything, your mood and everything. If you have to walk in and feel like, oh, I like this place, right? You want to feel like you're enjoying being there, even if it's work. You want to feel like you're enjoying being in that space.
Exactly.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around my yellow, but because I really love blue. If you see my logo, what?
I have some ideas to help you with that. Okay.
And now I don't know if I want to repaint the whole thing, but I do love my blues, and I have my blue accents in here and stuff.
Common color.
I do want to say that, you mentioned about like your office, where you sit. If you're facing the door, it's a position of power, and mine, just the way it's set up, because my desk scenario is giant, actually. It's a really, really big wraparound, so there was no way to really put it in front of the door. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm home, and so it feels okay. But I do remember when you drew out the space for me, and that in the space that we wanted. Um, and I don't have a good brain for this, sort of figuring this out. And I remember seeing you, draw out, well, you don't have enough space here, and you need to have. And I was like, well, it can go there. And you're like, well, you need space behind you for your chair to pull out, and you need, this is only 2 feet. What it looks like on paper, might seem okay, but the reality of it. And so I just want to say you were brilliant at pointing all of that out and saying, if the door is here, you're going to still be behind the door, and that's not where you want to be. On top of that, when that space got switched out and we were going to go upstairs in that building, to me, I was just like, I can't do anything with this space. I don't know what to do with this. Yeah. And you said, well, let me draw it. And you did. And I was like, oh, I love this. And it was so comforting, just the whole way you drew it. It seemed, because I had a very specific, as you know, kind of plan for this office space. But I just loved the way you so quickly envisioned and took what I wanted to do and translated that into the space for me, even without the colors, before we got to any of that.
Because, we never even got that
far. Right, because we didn't get there. But
already.
The other thing that was so helpful to me, which again, I would not have thought of, and that's why you do what you do and I do what I do. But, you said at one point, let's have a contractor day. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And you said, well, we need to bring in the plumber and the flooring guy and the electrician and, and make sure, because if they're all talking separately, they're not going to, they need to talk together and say, yes, we can do that, or no, we can. And we had a whole day of that, which was fun, despite not, again, carrying it through, but you just really knew what you were doing from start to finish. So I want to thank you again for that.
And it's important, even with your home office, if you don't have the right lighting, those are things do you have room for the technological requirements to have your computer set up, to have the stronger Wi-Fi? So those are all things you need to consider. You need to talk to an electrician. You need to talk to a computer company. You need to have the electrician come in, and do you have enough outlets for everything that's going to be plugged in? So those are things that you need to consider, that people buy their office furniture, they set it up, they're ready to go, and then they have like 4 electrical strips, power strips, which is not the safest thing to have. And then their lighting isn't enough. Overhead lighting is great, but you also need task lighting on your desk, because sometimes the overhead lighting gets a little glaring, especially when you're working long days. So you want to have the ability to shut off the overhead lighting and turn on your task light so that the computer screen isn't as harsh on your eyes as it is if it's, if you're in a dark room with your computer screen, it's really straining your eyes. So
yeah. And I did, I have gotten a pair of these. So these are my blue blockers.
Yes.
That do help, because hours on end in front of the computer, you really do need that, to dampen that. So I do wear these actually quite a bit. And you can see my ring light, I think. So I have a big ring light over here for when I'm doing the broadcasts and things. One of the other things that there may be people like me who've had their home office for a period of time, right? So I've had mine, like I said, like 29 years. But one of the things that I found very helpful when we had to come, and when I had to be here sort of semi-permanently, was changing things up. So I'm, normally people are sort of, hesitant to change. And for me, I saw this as an opportunity. Number one, I do have a big, nice, beautiful window in my office. Right. And the lighting for all my Zooms now was not good, because only half my face was ever lit, even with the ring light and everything. It just wasn't right. So my husband said, well, why don't you move your computer in front of the window? And I was like, well, that's weird. Why would that's going to feel weird.
Right.
And I thought, but let me try it. And now I love it, because it's made this whole corner space for me quite large for all my other work that I do. So yes, I spend a lot of time in front of my computer, but now I have this other space. On top of that, I started moving other things. Let me move this. And what happens if I put that there instead of over there? And it so motivated me and inspired me to say, oh, this is great. And it's cleaner, or it's this, or it's that. So I think for me, that felt like a tip to to give to other people, that if you are used to being home or you've been there for a while, that changing things up, moving things around,
Yes.
can actually be very helpful for your brain.
Absolutely. And even just decluttering, because, sooner or later piles end up stacking up, especially, for me, I have tons of fabric samples. So when we have a project, well, we have all these pieces together, we keep, fabric, window treatments, all these little samples, and they end up piling up. So when the project's done, I try to make sure, and I have a drawer for each project, but I try to make sure I clean it out. And it just feels so good to get rid of all the pieces we didn't use and stuff like that. And also, that's another thing when you're picking out your furniture. If you are buying new furniture, you want to be able to make sure you have flexibility. Is this going to give me what I need? Is there room to expand if I need to? So
Yeah.
you try to maximize your project. And that's what's good about having the full plan.
Yeah, and decluttering is huge. My daughter Sam's been working with me, which is wonderful. And there was a good week when all she was doing was shredding. So we decluttered quite a bit, and so now I actually have filing cabinets with space to put more things in there, more paper in there. But it was so yeah, cleaning up is really so helpful and motivating. To just look like you, even if you end up not like now I have this whole extra side of my desk that I really don't use, but it's very it's great that it feels so clean and so organized.
And it also, when your desk is cluttered and your office is cluttered, it kind of makes you feel closed in and claustrophobic. So when you open up and you get rid of, like, I know when I clean off my desk and it's clear except for the things that I use all the time, it's like, that feels so good. And it's just really important to just repeatedly, get rid of the mail that you don't need, go through all the different things. And if you don't have time during the week to go through your mail, have a dedicated spot to put your mail in your office so that it's not all piled up on your desk.
Our mail goes into quarantine for 2 days.
Yes, ours does too.
Before we open it up.
And boxes go longer.
Yeah, it's really funny because I tend to get sort of stuck in my ways of things, and I'm sure we all do to some respect. But it was funny to me when I added the standing desk, for example. What my monitor was sitting on was a beautiful glass shelf that I have, and I was like, oh well, now what am I going to do with this? And I put it on the other side of my desk, and now the lamp is on it, the clock, and it's all of a sudden it just made that whole section look so pretty and so nice. And so, yeah, moving things around, decluttering, moving things really is a great way to keep yourself motivated and to sort of welcome change and embrace it.
Absolutely. And even seasonally change out your art. I mean, I'm sure, especially if you have, you take trips, everybody's always doing something where they're using their camera. So print out some of those pictures and frame them, change it out, make it a little more, in the winter, put your beach pictures out.
Yeah.
Inspire you and give you a little bit of warmth.
Yeah.
You really have to just keep your office. It has to be pleasing. It has to be comfortable. If you have windows, you want to set up your desktop so that or your laptop so that you have a view of the outside. But you also want to consider the light coming in. Like in my office, I have two windows. I have one behind me and one to the left of me. And the one on the left in the winter at 3:00, the sun is at the angle that is glaring right into my eyes that I can't even see. So I have to adjust my blinds for that. So when I was getting my window treatments for here, that was something I considered because I knew how the sun was going to come in the afternoons.
Right.
In the afternoon, it's fine. It's not in my eyes at all. But when I'm sitting, it is.
Right.
So,
yeah. And in terms of artwork, so I have two pieces on my wall. In addition to my horse, I have one really beautiful horse print that I got so many years ago, and I just love it. And then I have my horse ribbons, but I also have on my wall two drawings that were done by my girls. Now one is 27, one's 22, but these were done when they were 6 and whatever.
Right.
And I have them framed and they're on my wall, and I just love them because it's just, family and them and,
yeah.
I love you, mama. And so I love having those on the wall too.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of redoing my office, and I pulled out, both my boys have gone to the same preschool, and they have a plate that they did ironically for Mother's Day that they each colored and wrote on. So I have those, and I just ordered the hangers to hang them on the wall because I love them. They're just so sweet, and they're so representative of both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. And if you have the kind of wall space, you can do that. And I actually, Christine, changed out my curtains just recently. So I just got, because I had, well, Christine knows, I have these funky little flowers all around, which was part of like a weird disco thing or 60s thing I had going on. And I do like my flowers because they're colorful and rainbow like, and I stenciled them on with my girls. So it's also representative of that. But the curtain was in the weird kind of fabric that created those flowers to begin with. So after, I don't know, 10 years of having that, I just added like beautiful white shears, you know, just enough to sort of block out the sun a bit if I need to. But it was so nice to change out the curtain and just have it feel a little bit more feminine and a little bit, you know, softer and that kind of thing, a little bit more mature than what I had up there before. So,
so the other thing I always recommend is, you know, when you're doing your office and you're setting things up, display your awards, display your trophies, display your degrees, your certificates. These are things you worked hard for and you earned. Display them, be proud of them, and it's part of who you are, and it tells a story. I mean, I know you're not having a lot of colleagues come into your house, but even if you set up your office and your children see it, it tells your story. So it's important to really make it personal like that. I think really that's something we always ask people. Do you have awards and stuff? Because why put them in the closet? You worked hard.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I do have a bunch of those that I've won over the years, and I never had them out because I was like, who am I trying to impress? You know, they're my awards. And so they've been in boxes. But when I moved the desk around and cleaned up, I said, and I made space on my desk to have them. So now they're out there and they make me feel good because they're like, okay, you know, you're right. They're accomplishments and what I've done over the years. So now they're out there and they're proudly displayed for me and whoever.
And if you take down your virtual backdrop, people will see it.
Yeah. So just to wrap up here, but my virtual backdrop, and my color is changing again there, is I do show my office periodically. I can't get my color back. There we go. I do show my office periodically, but I've really enjoyed actually being able to change out my backdrops. And people have asked me, how did you do that? And basically, this is a stock photo.
Right.
I have a subscription to a iStock, and then I use something called Canva.com, Canva.com, and I was able to get it in the right sizing for Zoom backdrop, and then I added I never know which side I'm on. I added the logo and all of that information. But I also bought from Amazon, I bought a green screen. So I literally have a 7-foot by 5-foot green screen hanging from my ceiling.
Right.
And that enables me to get it where you don't disappear.
Right. Like I have a virtual, so I disappear.
No, it's pretty good actually. Yeah. No, yours is decent, but you can see it's slight different from, when you have the green screen. So a few people have asked me about that, and that's really how I get that. And it's kind of nice too, because I can change it up and pretend that I have this big loft, beautiful office with the brick wall.
We had our office in Kearney, and there's Iris and I in the background. And for happy hour, I have that bar that I did.
Yeah.
It's good to change them up, especially because my office is in the middle of being redone, so things are not on the walls or anything like that. But,
yeah, it is fun to play with it actually, and it is kind of fun to feel like I'm in that office and stuff. But well, Christine, do you have any last tips or anything?
The only thing I would say is, I know we're all working from home now. We don't know what's going to be happening, but try to just take time to plan and don't rush into it, because you don't want to have buyer's remorse. This is an investment you're making. Spend your money on your desk and your chair. Those are the two most important pieces in your office. You want to try to have a desk that's going to be very sturdy, because you're going to have a lot of stuff in it, especially if you have file drawers in it. Once you start adding all those files, they get heavy really quickly. So while it's very easy to buy like the least expensive, spend the money on the quality for those pieces, and everything else will fall into place.
Good advice. And actually, mine does not have any filing cabinet. It's actually a 3-piece unit that I got from IKEA 27 years ago. And it's got nothing underneath it. So it's all open. And that's why I can use this rolling cabinet and that kind of thing. So it's kind of nice to have just the tabletop and then adjust it as you go. But well, I want to thank you. Yeah, this was great. Can you tell people how to get a hold of you if they need you?
Yeah, so if you would like to talk to us about design, we can do a consultation or help you full service. You can go to our website, www.elladesigngroup.com, go to the contact page, and you can fill out a form, and it comes right to us, and we'll get back to you within 24, 48 hours.
And what's your phone number in case anybody wants to go old school?
The office phone is 845-634-2925.
And I'll put that in the comments section as well. Well, thank you, Christine. This has been great, and I could chat with you all day about design. You know, people might also be rethinking what they want to do with their home design and living rooms or kitchens or whatever. So I know you're available for that as well, right? You do houses as well as
yes, we do residential, from remodels, additions to decorative projects. Just new office furniture, carpet, and stuff like that.
Awesome. So. Well, I can't recommend you enough. I mean, I was just so, thrilled and impressed with what you did for my office, which, didn't come through, but you never know, at some point it might. So thank you for all your help with that. And this was great. So thank you for your time. And as soon as I find my mouse there we go. So stay safe, everybody. Stay well. Reach out to people during this crazy time and make sure you're making connections with people and, and keeping yourself, uplifted and everybody else that as well. It's a tough time, but we will get through it together. So, all right. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.